Hello, 深圳。蜜雪冰城。
I don't know if you remember, a couple months ago, I went back to China and I promised that I will make a video sharing my observations on my China trip. And this is a video for that. Okay, frankly, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I want to talk about it, especially why I'm not considering moving back home to China anytime soon. Honestly, this is a question that I probably get asked the most often as an immigrant. So let's talk about it. Let's see, where do I want to start? Kudos, you're not helping, you're distracting me. The word on the street is to make money in the US and then spend them all overseas. And I gotta agree with that. I had a bucket list of things that I want to do, but the first thing I did the moment that I landed was to get breakfast at this hole in the wall place.
都有人整，但係冇咁好食，係嘛？
乜你係廣東人咩？啲皮膚咁靚㗎
唔該。
嚇？係咪我哋廣東人啊？
你估咧？
好似唔係幾，
好似唔係，點解覺得唔係咧？
皮膚咁靚嘛，都唔似我哋啲。
For me personally, dining out at fancy restaurants doesn't wow me that much, and especially back home in China. Local spots like this one is where it's at. Just some context if we haven't met and you haven't seen any of my other videos. My name is Yi. I grew up in China and I've been living in the US for the past 10-ish years. I currently live in California, the Bay Area to be specific, and you probably have already guessed, I work in tech as a product manager, and I've been recently struggling with my job. Anyway, that's for another day. Back to my China trip. I went home December 2023, and then before that, I haven't been back home for over 5 years. I went all out on things that would be otherwise considered as an everyday luxury, such as ordering deliveries for my morning cup of coffee almost every day. When it costs as little as, I think, $3, it felt dumb if you didn't do it.
哇！蜜雪冰城，其實佢係 OK 嘅，係咪啊？其實佢 OK 嘅，4蚊係可以買嘅。有啲味嘅白開水。佢咖啡係7蚊喎，犀利。
What I love the most is probably getting my hair washed at a salon. I'm not joking when I say this. I don't think I ever washed my hair for once on this entire trip. I don't remember this being a thing a couple years ago, so maybe this is new. It cost me anywhere from like $5 to $6 in Shenzhen, so I highly recommend doing it if you're in China. Oh, and I can't believe I have not mentioned this, but what I enjoyed the most was probably just being around my family. I can't quite explain it, but I really like being a kid again. When I get up in the morning, I know there would be an egg and some porridge maybe set aside and just there for me to eat. Or if we're going out to Yamcha at a popular restaurant, I know some family members probably have already left for the place and stood in line for us. It's these little things, that just make you feel really comfortable. And you don't realize how much this feeling of comfort would mean to you until you get older, or in my case, when I first got back to the States. I remember the first week when I got back was frankly just so brutal. And I felt the urge to book flights back home a few times at least. So I guess you might ask, why did you say in the beginning that you'd never go back? Well, the first reason is stress. It first hit me when I was catching up with some of my old friends from middle school, and I just realized how much stress people around my age in China were going under. I would think that like with all the layoffs, the work-life balance in the US has gone downhill quite a bit, but this is nothing compared to the level of stress at work if you're working in China. So I met one group of my friends in Shenzhen, and while all of them had seemingly great jobs at either big tech or investment companies, I was so shocked to find out that none of them could make it to dinner before 8 p.m. Not a single one of them. And of course, the topic of buying a house, or more like an apartment, inevitably came up in our conversation. Felt like to me that it is no secret that the housing market is going through a rough patch, to say the very least. And one of my friends bought a place in 2022 at an all-time high, pretty much. And to me, he looked visibly stressed. And I don't blame him though, right? Because nobody really knows how long he's going to be underwater.
有一段时间是鱼塘啊。
鱼塘就是说，因为那段时间还没有工业啊，没那么快发展嘛。农田的时候呢，都是比较香港的做渔民那种过来搞那个鱼塘的。然后搞完鱼塘，然后呢又把填了鱼塘，又建厂房啦，又建商品房啦，就开始上产建金了。一开始是罗湖县的。罗湖县建的，我说福田这个地方应该是差不多90年的时候才开始发展这边。
哇，你有吃这个牛肉丸吗？很好吃的。I also met with another group of my friends in my hometown. Most of them who live in my hometown are government workers. It's honestly a little crazy how much people want to get a government job. I forgot the exact stats. I might be butchering a bit, but it was like 30% of college grads have now entered the entrance exam for government jobs. That's just nuts, right? They joked about feeling the pressure to have a second baby in order to just fit in at work or being considered for promos. And I honestly couldn't tell how much of that was a joke or if there's any truth to it. I've heard that people who work with the government need to give in their passport, but it was so shocking to me that one of them said that they were told no to get their passport back, even though they just had a newborn and they were trying to go to Thailand for a vacation. Luckily, he was approved for his honeymoon in Europe a few years ago. Otherwise, I honestly don't know if they will have this baby. Anyway, everyone seemed to be living a pretty comfortable life, but it kind of gave out the vibes like a goldfish in a bowl, to me at least. Overall, based on my conversation with friends, I think people are pretty anxious and stressed in China. To be honest, I don't remember a single person being very optimistic about the economy in China. Many of them have even openly expressed to me that they are looking for ways to go somewhere else. I know you might think, okay, working in China sucks, but how about building enough wealth and then just semi-retire in China? Well, not gonna lie, that was my plan, because we all know cost of living is crazy good compared to America. But after this 3-week-long trip, my honest take there is I think convenience is overrated. Of course, I liked having my coffee delivered and having someone else wash my hair, but I know I can easily go without these things. It first hit me when I saw a bunch of guys dressed in a yellow uniform and they were eating their lunch boxes on the street. This scene reminded me so much of the guards in Squid Game, where they were dressed in a red uniform with black mask with symbols on them which represent their rank or I guess position in the society. Looking at these delivery guys, I see intense competition on their face where everyone was forced to play this game all for the enjoyment of the rich. Even though I know with enough money, I can sit back and relax just like the old man in the show Squid Game, but I don't really want to do that. I take no pressure in others' pain, and I'd much prefer a society where folks are just driven by passion and instead of fear. And as for other things, such as staying close to my roots and my friends, I don't think these things are black and white anymore. It's not hard for me personally to find a community of close friends in the US, and at this point, I probably have more friends here than back home. Of course, these are no replacement for my friends in China, but I'm okay with seeing them every year or so and focus on quality over quantity. I do feel like I can stay fairly close to my culture either through movies and music and or just like calling my parents. So it's really not a big deal. Speaking of my parents, they are probably the biggest draw for me if I ever go back to China. I think it's going to be very hard, but I want to try having them with me in the US and see how that goes for a couple of years. I don't know if they will enjoy, and frankly, if I would enjoy having them around all the time because they're not going to be able to be on their own, right? That's kind of the struggle that you have to figure out as a first generation immigrant. But yeah, that's how I feel right now about this whole topic of whether I want to go back to my home country. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this chatty video. At this point, I'm really tired. After a long day at work and talking to the camera for 30 minutes, I'm gonna take a nap. Bye. Good